Welcome to CCK Live. My name is Kayla D'Onofrio. I'm joined today by Alex Gamache and Brandon Paiva. Today we're going to be reviewing 8 tips for winning your VA claims. The VA claims process can be complicated, and there are a lot of requirements that VA requires veterans to meet throughout the process. From providing evidence and submitting the correct forms, to attending C&P exams and securing medical and service records, there are a variety of things that veterans have to pay attention to in order to be successful in winning a grant of benefits for their case. To make the process easier, we have compiled a list of our top tips to hopefully help you win your VA claim. So our first tip that we're going to talk about is understanding the VA process, which is really kind of step one when you start your process. So Alex, can you talk about how the process works, why it's important, and maybe some terms for veterans to familiarize themselves with throughout the process?
Yes, so it's important that veterans understand how the VA claims process works as a whole. They need to familiarize with themselves on how to submit claims for benefits, what types of decisions they can expect, and what their options are if they need to appeal. Some key terms, topics, and rules that we think are important, or kind of the top ones to pay attention to, would be effective dates, legacy versus AMA appeal options and deadlines, VA's duty to assist, but there's a bunch more that veterans should understand when going through the claims process. Veterans who understand how the claims process works are more likely to submit all of the necessary documentation and supplemental evidence to win the benefits the first time around.
Yeah, that's a really important starting point. There's a lot of things that VA requires at different points through the process. They look at different things. They're trying to find different evidence. So just kind of understanding where you are in the process will just help you through the process a little bit more smoothly. Our next tip that we're going to talk about is making sure you're keeping VA updated with things that are changing in your life. So Brandon, can you talk about some of the different things that are important to keep VA updated on and why those things are important?
Absolutely. So it's important to keep VA up to date about things that might be changing in your life, such as even moving your address. VA will send you correspondence related to your VA claim to the address that they have on file. So if the address is incorrect or it isn't updated due to a recent move, you do run the risk of your claim being delayed or even potentially closed due to missed deadlines. Also, mail from VA contains your personal information. So an example of this is your social security number or your C-file number, if applicable as well. It would obviously be problematic if this information was sent to the wrong person or kind of fell into the wrong hands. You should always update VA with any change in dependency as well, such as even a recent marriage, a divorce, or the birth of a baby. Failure to update VA about a divorce, for example, could result in an overpayment of dependency benefits, which you will likely have to pay back. If you have recently gotten married, updating this information with VA can result in more monthly compensation for you as well. And keeping your information up to date with VA can help prevent unnecessary delays, denials, and compensation troubles as well.
Great, thanks, Brandon. Our next tip is making sure that you're using the correct forms. VA has a lot of different forms that they're going to require at different parts of the process to have them take specific action on your claims. So using the correct form can help to avoid confusion on VA's part and potentially minimize delays in your case. There are a few different examples of forms that I'll go over. I think one of the most common confusion points for forms is when you're filing your VA claims to begin with. There are 2 different forms that VA requires depending on what you're filing and when you're filing it. The first one is the VA Form 21-526EZ. You use this form if you are filing your initial first service connection claim for an issue, or if you're seeking an increased rating for a condition that's already service connected, and you're not within a year of a decision that's already addressed that issue. However, if you're filing a claim for service connection and you have already filed a claim for service connection for that issue and it's been denied in the past, you'll need to file what's called a supplemental claim form instead, which is VA Form 20-0995, and submit new and relevant evidence. And we have more blog posts and videos that talk more about the different forms and what evidence goes into those, but it's just a common point of confusion that we do see, and VA will kick it back if it's not the correct form the first time. So just to avoid some delays and potential wrong effective dates that could be granted. Another important form to keep in mind is the VA Form 21-8940. This is a form that VA will typically require if you're seeking TDIU benefits. In general, they won't adjudicate TDIU unless this form is submitted. So just make sure that you're aware of that form and that you do submit it if it's needed. And another form is the VA Form 21-4138, which is the Statement in Support of Claim. This is essentially a form that you or a family member or a fellow service member can provide lay testimony to help with your case. It's not a required form for VA. You can just type up or write out a statement and submit that to VA, but submitting it on the form can sometimes help VA organize it and label it appropriately in their system to make sure that it's reviewed in the way that it should be. Our next tip is going to be attending all of your C&P exams. This is something that we talk about in the majority of our videos. It's a really important thing that veterans need to know. So Alex, can you talk a little bit about first what a C&P exam is and then why it's important to attend them?
So a C&P exam is a medical exam ordered by VA to assess the etiology and or severity of the veteran's disabilities when they're pursuing a disability compensation claim. VA weighs the results of C&P exams quite heavily, so that's why we always reinforce that clients go to them and why we talk about them so much. Some consequences of not going to exams are for both service connection and increased ratings. If you don't attend your initial exam for service connection, there's a good chance that your claim will be denied. And same thing, if you fail to attend your C&P exam for an increased rating, there's a good chance it might be denied, and VA may also have to rely on outdated medical evidence of record, which may not adequately show the progression of that condition or the current symptoms that the veteran is experiencing. Veterans who are unable to attend their upcoming VA exams should reach out to VA as soon as possible to reschedule. Importantly, if you also disagree with your C&P exam results, you may submit private treatment notes and medical records to prove a more favorable evidence and attempt to challenge the exam.
And I think this topic transitions really nicely into our next tip, which is making sure that you're being honest with your healthcare provider, and this will go for C&P examiners as well. So Brandon, can you talk about why that's such an important thing that veterans need to know?
Yes, so this is really important, especially when attending any visits with your treating physician, whether it's your private doctor or your VA medical center doctor. It's essential that you're honest and that you're accurately reporting your symptoms and limitations to your healthcare provider. We would always advise to not exaggerate or downplay your symptoms. If something is bothering you, we would always advocate to make sure that your healthcare provider is aware and that you're reporting those symptoms to your provider. Providing an accurate picture of your symptoms can help to ensure that your condition or your conditions are accurately documented in your medical records, which almost always VA will likely consider when deciding your claim. Medical evidence is usually the crux of most of the claims when it comes to disability compensation. When having these discussions with your healthcare provider, it is really important to tell them about the symptoms you're currently experiencing and provide them with details about those various symptoms. Even if your healthcare providers don't ask directly about those symptoms, it's still helpful to offer that information and discuss whether the condition or the conditions that you're suffering from are worsening, improving, or if they're remaining the same. We would always advise that veterans indicate how the condition impacts their functioning on a daily basis, whether that's mental or physical limitations, whether it's impacting your ability to move around or ambulate in your home, or even if it's a psychiatric condition and it's impacting your ability to, get motivated to do anything. We would always advise to, be as open and as honest as possible with your healthcare providers.
Great. Thanks, Brandon. That's a really important point. You really want to make sure that VA has the most accurate representation of your symptoms as you can possibly provide them. Our next tip is making sure that you obtain a copy of your VA claims file. So your VA claims file, which is often called the C file, is a collection of your records that are kept by VA in connection with your disability claims. When a veteran first files a claim for benefits, VA will request the veteran's service records and any other medical records that they think are relevant to their claim. They'll usually ask for this information when you sort of start the claims process. This is the beginning of the claims file, and as your claim progresses, if you file more claims, if you file appeals, as you submit additional evidence, your claims file is going to continue to grow to contain everything that VA has on record for your case. It's recommended that veterans seeking disability benefits obtain their C file to ensure that it contains all of the necessary information to prove their claim. VA does have a duty to assist veterans in gathering evidence for their claim when they're making a decision if they notice that something is missing, but it's ultimately still the responsibility of the veteran to make sure that that evidence is actually received by VA and uploaded into the file. So it's really important that veterans have an understanding of what's already there and what could potentially be missing that VA is going to use as a reason to deny their claim. And I think that, again, transitions really nicely into our next tip, which is making sure that you're submitting relevant evidence. So Alex, can you talk about why that's important and then maybe give some examples of relevant evidence for different sorts of claims?
Yes. So like you talked about earlier, there are specific claim forms that you need for specific type of claims, but there's also specific types of evidence that you need for certain claim types. So all VA disability claims require some sort of medical evidence, service records, VA exams, so on and so on. However, we're going to talk about a couple of different types that require more specific documentation. So one of the first ones that we see a lot are PTSD claims. Veterans seeking disability for PTSD are required to indicate their stressor in service. These can be corroborated by lay statements from fellow service members who also witnessed the same event, or any other evidence that corroborates that event happening in service. Both of those can be particularly effective in establishing service connection and indicating that that stressor had occurred. The next one, which Kayla did talk about a little bit earlier, is TDIU in the 8940 form. TDIU is a VA benefit reserved for veterans whose disabilities do not combine to a scheduler 100%, but their conditions impact their ability to work. VA requires that veterans submit a VA Form 21-8940, which asks for information regarding employment history and educational background. This form of evidence is specific only for TDIU claims. And one of the last ones that we see often are DIC claims. So these are for survivors applying for DIC benefits. They have to submit specific evidence such as their marriage certificate to prove they were married to the veteran, and the veteran's death certificate to prove that a service-connected disability contributed to the veteran's death. It's important to note that submitting too much evidence that is not relevant to your claim kind of means that VA is spending more time shifting through that evidence rather than focusing on what's the most important evidence in the file. So it's always good to make sure that you're only submitting what's important to your actual claim.
Thanks, Alex. It is really important. It can definitely cause delays if VA has to spend a lot of time sorting through all of that additional paperwork, and they're going to require different things depending on if you're seeking service connection, an increased rating, TDIU, depends what the issue is. So they're always looking for different things at different times. So having the relevant evidence is really important. And our last tip for today is to not give up on your claims and don't be afraid to ask for help. So Brandon, can you talk a little bit more about this and maybe give some options that veterans might have if they're feeling a little bit lost in the process?
Certainly. Last but definitely not least, don't give up and ask for help. If you feel as though you need assistance at any point in the process, whether it's with initially filing a claim or filing an appeal, do not hesitate to reach out for help. There are VSOs, accredited representatives, and accredited attorneys out there who can assist you throughout this, very difficult and kind of murky process. Don't give up on your VA claim if you've been denied or if the process seems endless. In one way or another, you have earned these benefits and help is available for you.
Thanks, Brandon. That's definitely last but not least. It is really important that you don't give up. If you give up and then you decide you want to try again, it can cause less retroactive payment for you. So it's just important to know that you do have someone in your corner to help you navigate through this incredibly difficult process. And we know that VA loves to throw hurdles in the middle when you're trying to get through things. So don't be afraid to ask for help. There's always someone in your corner who can guide you through the process. But I think that's a really good place for us to wrap up today. For more information on the topics that are discussed in this video, you can head over to our blog. Also, be sure to check out our other videos and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new content. Thank you for watching.